Today on Panelism, we're talking about the Captain Marvel that isn't really a Captain Marvel, but doesn't really have a name in his own movie. Welcome to Panelism, the podcast where we talk about the comic books and graphic novels worth having on your shelf, and sometimes the movies that are derived from those comics and graphic novels. I'm Todd A.
I'm Taylor Trask. Yes, sometimes we veer off the beaten path and we talk about a movie. Although we used to talk about movies all the time, so it's not like it's...
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we beat this path a lot, so it's okay.
For our new listeners who aren't as used to our movie or TV related stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
And in this case, we're talking about Shazam. It has just come out. It just came out over the weekend, Todd. Just released. Fresh.
Yeah. And we both saw it. And in fact, I was so excited from our summer preview episode that I did exactly what I said I would do. And I went to a Thursday afternoon matinee. So I saw this on opening day for $8. And I walked over there.
Excellent. What was the crowd like? Big, small?
No. It was actually pretty empty, for 4 p.m. on a Thursday.
Isn't that crazy though? Because like it used to be that these Marvel movies, like I remember going to Iron Man 2, like midnight showing the Thursday before, and it was jam packed. And all of a sudden I think it was Iron Man 3, 4 or 5 years later, went, and that was the first movie that they started doing the early Thursday showings. And I went like at 5 or 6 p.m. and it was the same thing. Nobody there. And I was just kind of like, what happened? Like the excitement's all like, this is earlier, more convenient, yet it's not as crazy. And I don't know. I was thinking about this after our movie review episode, which was the last one. If you're interested, is that a result of theaters changing the time, or is it more the result of viewers really getting used to time shifting? And then it's just like this event launch, the premiere isn't as big as it used to be unless it's a big movie, like Endgame coming up, which, already the tickets are being resold on scalping sites, and it's kind of crazy to watch that. But yeah, go ahead, sir. I
would say the other thing, but you like just to tag on what you said there about Endgame, is that I think this is also indicative of like Shazam's power, because I'm pretty sure I saw Infinity War on, maybe not on opening day, but like in the same like afternoon slot in that opening weekend, and it was jammed. So this, I think, was more of nobody really cared about seeing Shazam on opening day at 4 p.m. So, but yeah, I mean, what was your experience like? When did you see it?
We saw it Friday night, 7:45 at a theater that I have been putting off seeing in Colorado Springs. It's actually the biggest, multiplex movie theater. It's really close to our house. And in fact, Todd, you'll remember last year, you and I and another friend of ours went to Deadpool, and we actually went to the other side of town to a theater that's great. It's just on the other side of town. So this one is very close. It's massive. I don't know why I've been putting off going there, but we had this reserved stadium seating, and jam-packed theater, so you get a little of the audience interaction too. So it was much more traditional opening night.
Oh yeah, was it packed?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Because of that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so sold out.
More or less. I think there's a few empty seats, but yeah, we pretty much jam theater.
Did you get the vibe from the audience watching Shazam that was like they were all into it? Did that add to the excitement of the movie?
It was a slightly older crowd. So not as much. There was definitely more laughter and sort of oohs and ahs than there would be in a normal everyday theater setting. Not quite the rabid opening night, comic book audience. Because I mean, say what you will about Iron Man 2, my love of that movie is largely influenced by the fact that opening night crowd was into it. They were ready to go, and so everything was heightened during that viewing. And even like, there's different things like when when he's on the racetrack and he pulls out the suitcase armor for the first time, everybody's like, oh, just that sort of, and granted that was still early in the MCU. So things were a little bit more surprising. In this case, it was just more, more laughter at some of the jokes. So I think that felt a little more heightened, but it was much more laid back audience.
Yeah. that brings so many things to mind. But one question that I think we should consider through this episode is who was the ideal audience for this?
Great question.
Not just who they thought it was, but who, having seen it now, who do we think it should have been,
I have a very clean, and it's funny you asked that because I was thinking about that pretty much through half of the movie. Who is this really for? And I think I have a very clean answer. I think it's for kids age 8 to 18. Let's just say I'll put it there, 8 to 18. You could even go younger if you wanted to, but I think this is definitely a kids movie that if you're an adult and you love it, great, but it's not meant for I think unlike the dark Snyderverse movies, this is definitely aimed squarely at kids to go, hey kids, we're sorry we've ignored you this entire time. But DC's now for you. Here you go. It really felt like a movie I would have absolutely adored when I was 13, 12, 11, so forth.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. And that's exactly where the impetus for my question comes from, because with that audience in mind, there were a couple of not even necessarily curse words, but at one point, but he says to suck my balls. And I'm like, man, I don't know if that's a cool thing to say in a kid's movie.
Yeah.
And a couple of them swear, a couple of the kids swear, and not in and I granted, the Goonies swore like crazy, as I recall, right? But it was, I don't know, it just sort of threw me off of so did DC think that this would actually be the sort of Marvel young adult to, Gen X audience? I don't know. But I just think in retrospect, I actually think that, I do think that's the audience is adults. I think there are a bunch of us who do have that dark hero fatigue, and we're ready for something like this. And I wonder if they could have positioned it a little bit better just because of that. But I don't have any big long rant on that. Just observations. I
go back and forth on that because, like you said, Goonies, that was very much, if you're a kid in the 80s, that might have been the first time you heard a lot of swear words. That's ebbed and flowed over the years. I don't know if that's so tamped down now. I mean, so much double entendre exists in movies. Good Lord, Shrek invented the double entendre, multi-generational movie formula, essentially.
Right. The joke for the parents and then the joke for the kids.
Yeah. So you can read something and your kids might laugh, but then the parents are laughing for a very different reason. And they don't want to have an awkward conversation in the car on the way home to explain why. So it all works out. I think in that case, I don't know. I really felt like if I had a kid at this juncture, this would be a great family movie to go to.
I do too. I do feel like there would definitely be those moments where I would catch that kid playing with superheroes later, yelling, suck my balls. And I would be like, oh, hey, buddy, let's not. Because I remember my brother playing with his Back to the Future set one time and yelling the word bastards when he was 5 years something, and my dad was like, "Ho, ho!"
Where'd you hear that?
Because it's like a scene right from the movie where Marty is just like, "You bastards!"
I want to go back to the idea that your brother had a Back to the Future set. What does that mean? Did he have a DeLorean toy car?
As I recall, it was a little DeLorean toy car with the. What? But maybe he was just playing it with another car. I don't know, but I knew he was reenacting a scene from the movie. And my dad just thought he was shouting at bastards, in his play. He didn't really get that. So yeah, again, I think, if my kid were to say suck my balls, I would be like, whoa, let's not take that to the playground.
Well, overall, what was your general impression? If you could sum it up in a sentence or two, what did you think?
I really loved it. I thought it was so fun. That's probably where I should just leave my impression. I was so happy with the way it included nods to Superman and Batman without trying to be part of the universe yet, if that ever comes. I honestly am doing the same treatment of God, dare I say it, and they could almost have the this sort of like B-list superheroes movies
Yeah.
and do them in this tone. I thought they did a really, and the other thing is like, it is such a more solid movie than Aquaman.
You
Like
think?
just structure wise, like, I mean, just the writing and the structure of this movie was like, that was a movie that was, you know, written out in 3 acts and, you know, sort of followed the arc and all that kind of stuff. And Aquaman was just all over the place. Like,
Well, it
just
certainly felt cleaner than Aquaman because it was just
Oh,
like
yeah.
where Aquaman took the tact of, hey, this may be the only Aquaman movie that ever exists, so let's do every Aquaman movie all at once. Shazam
Yeah.
was kind of like, you know, let's just keep this as clean and as simple as possible. It was a little paint by numbers for my taste. But to that end, there's a lot of kids who are not familiar with that formula yet. So it felt fresh to them, I'm sure. And it was just so refreshing to see DC finally just do what they should have done from the very get-go and just like copy Marvel's formula verbatim. You know, they even had the initial end credits sequence and then the end of the credits sequence, and they had resisted doing that for so long. They're like, no, we're doing our own thing, and then finally they're just like, oh fuck it, we're just gonna do it. So they've got that, and then just it felt fun, and I kind of kept mental inventory of how much CGI they used, and while they used a ton, a lot of it was practical. Like a lot of stuff was practical. I mean, even his goofy suit, which I thought was, when I saw it in preview photos and stuff, I'm like, this may not be interesting. It actually worked. Yeah. It worked incredibly well. And there was sort of a lo-fi aspect to everything that really just made me feel like this was more of a 90s movie in that respect, before just you could do everything with CGI, pick and choose your battles a little bit more. And then it just had that nice, clean, simple 3-act structure, like you said, and then just every character kind of knew what they were supposed to be doing. They streamlined a lot of it. And when you think about the cast was only like 7-8 people at the end of the day. Was not big.
Oh god, I got to get into that. But a note on your saying where they just threw up their hands and followed Marvel's like mid-credit scene. And also, just to pat myself on the back too, I had made this comment in our episode about, I feel like this might be their Spider-Man.
Yeah, totally.
So when the animation style of the initial credits and a Ramones song came on, I could not believe, like, they literally, I was kicking myself because by the time I thought to look in the final credits, it had already passed. But I was like, I got to find out who the animation company was and see if they literally hired the same people and said, just do the same thing.
Just do the same thing. And
I mean, because that was Homecoming.
The Spider-Man Homecoming
ends
end credits
with a Ramones song and that same animation style for the like initial credits.
That high school sketchbook looking.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It was. But did that bother you, or were you like, okay, fine? Like, I mean, because it.
No,
it
I really felt like they were leaning into it, because it was like, there is no way you are not aware that Homecoming just did this like 2 years ago. So, so I felt like they were just saying like, this is our Spider-Man,
I wonder if that, I mean, I know there's been some executive change up at Warner Brothers, so I'm wondering how much of that affected this. And I know Zack Snyder's not the Kevin Feige. I mean, originally Zack Snyder was the Kevin Feige of the DCCU and no longer. So that's, I'm sure, a big part of it. Was it ever revealed how much Joss Whedon has a hand in these movies now?
I don't recall seeing his name anywhere on this one.
I'm looking right now. I don't see it either.
I did see Dwayne Johnson's name as an executive producer.
Oh, that's right, because he has been cast as Black Adam for like 25 years now. And as a result of that, because they're not making movies, he still gets to have a hand in how they make stuff. Let's just jump to that real quick. So spoilers from this point forward. If you haven't seen Shazam, pause this unless you want to get some glimpses of what's to come. But at the end, there are two end credit sequences. The ending one was just perfect, where the headless Superman walks into frame. We'll come back to that in a second. But the first one, where Savannah's in the jail cell, I could
wait. Hold on, that wasn't an ending credits, was it?
Yeah,
I thought the two were Savannah and then the telepathy with the goldfish.
You must have. Maybe there was a second end credit sequence. So the two I saw were the Savannah in the jail cell talking to the worm, and then at the very very end, they're back in the cafeteria, and the kid, I forget the main kid with the crutch. What his name is. He's there, and then the Shazam walks in, and then Superman's body walks in.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I just had them mixed up out of order. Like, what was?
I don't remember any telepathy with a goldfish though.
What you don't remember him like staring at a? Oh wait, did that happen in the movie?
That happened
staring
at
a goldfish in the. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm just mixing up that with an end credits. Yeah, I did see the Superman thing, but sorry,
got it.
I got way off track.
So I was surprised that in the jail cell they introduced this other character, this worm character, which I was very loosely familiar with. I know it goes way back to when this character was, when Shazam was called Captain Marvel. So it goes way, 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 way back. I was just shocked they went that route instead of having a Dwayne Johnson as Black Adam scene. Because you're like, that's where this has to go. Dwayne Johnson's been waiting so patiently, amassing more and more power in the cinematic landscape. So it's like, why wouldn't you tease that even a little bit? Just have something, even the name could be mentioned.
That's interesting because I really liked it, and it had a weird payoff for me, which was through the main action of Savannah, and Shazam's like confrontation and everything. I was so bothered that Savannah had like the ultimate power. Because I don't. I'm not like a huge Shazam Captain Marvel fan, but I read a couple books. And I'm familiar with the character of Savannah, and I always thought he was like the mastermind character behind the scenes, creating the inventions to take down Shazam, but not like the, action big bad evil guy. And so when he's flying around and shooting lightning and just seemed to have like, the same powers as Shazam, I was kind of annoyed with that. And I liked that it was revealed that like as he let the 7 deadly sins out, that he lost power, And so I thought that ultimate payoff in the jail cell was great because I was like, oh, now he's lost all that power and all he's going to do is hunger after that power. And so to me, that was like, okay, finally, now that's the Savannah I'm familiar with, where it's like they've given him this motivation now to hate Shazam and like go after that power. And I also can't remember the name of the worm. But I liked it because I felt like, okay, so I get that's the tone we're going for now. But yeah, I wonder how most people in the theater, because I initially didn't even see the worm on the, until it like started zooming. I was like, what are we looking at?
Yeah.
Was that everyone's experience?
The worm's name, by the way, is Mr. Mind. And that goes way, way back. And it's apparently from what I've read, the little radio is comics accurate, and he's apparently has more abilities or more power, or he offers more than the 7 deadly sins even do. So it's going to be a step up from, what Savannah had to start with. And you could almost think that maybe the 7 deadly sins were more elemental or more primal. Whereas this, this thing clearly has a mind and all that stuff. It felt a little bit, going back to Spider-Man, it felt pretty paint by numbers to the end scene in the first, the first Spider-Man with not Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. At the very end of that, Reese Infus is in the jail cell, having just been the lizard through the entire movie, and then some mysterious figure confronts him in the jail cell. And I forget who that was supposed to be. He's like, we're going to get him back. And just this mysterious kind of voice. So as soon as I saw Savannah in there and I heard this voice, I'm like, is this literally ripping that off too? So, the Spider-Man, Spider-Man influence was either unintentional or intentional, pretty strong. I do like, by the way, there were clearly 2 references to Big in this movie that, like 2 intentional call outs that I was really happy to see. Because the whole movie is basically like another version of Big, just with superpowers. So like when they had the walking piano in that toy store, and then the fact that they went to a carnival at the end of the thing, as they were walking through, I was thinking, I'm like, man, are we going to see like a Zoltan machine just like in the background as they pass it? Just kind of subtly there.
I bet they put one in.
And they're like, no,
there's gotta be one in there where like just that's out of, just just at the farthest distance or whatever. But yeah, I love that piano scene. That was so like what a funny payoff. Just, especially just the look on what's his name, Zachary Levi or whatever, like on his face where it's like, for like 1 millisecond, I went, no way are they going to do something this corny. And then to hear it like, just the stomping on the low end of the bum, 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 and you realize like, no, they're still fighting.
Yeah. I love that. I love the casual references to the rest of the DCCU without it being this crazy, convoluted storyline. That's how this should have been from the beginning.
Yeah.
We should have never gotten a Justice League anytime soon. It should have been stuff like this where it's like little hints and, playing on that a little bit. And yeah, at the very, very end, we get a Henry Cavill-less Superman body walk into frame.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because Henry Cavill's not Superman anymore. So
yeah, that
was kind of fun. The Batman toy getting thrown, that was kind of fun. So that was really cool. Let me ask you a couple of questions. First, did you expect to see the Shazam family appear this soon?
No.
That portion of the movie where he had the rest of his orphan brothers and sisters join him, and they became the Shazam. I mean, that's comics accurate too. That was really shocking, and the fact that they did it, even the lady costumes were pretty accurate. I was kind of shocked to see that already.
Well, I don't remember that there are that many of them. I remember just the brother and Mary, and there's an Uncle Marvel. I'll tell you though, when he used to the foster kid family dynamic, I was so perfect. Like I was living for those interactions between the kids and the parents the whole time. Like there was heart in that. That to me was like, I did think boy, I'm backing it up and just trying to throw all my thoughts in here. I did think that there was kind of this slow start to the movie, but it did have such a great pace, like for going through Billy's, history and backstory. Like it didn't feel like a cartoon gloss over of like troubled kid with a good heart, let's give him the power. Like it felt like, oh, we really earned that, through some of these scenes. But so that foster kid story I thought was great. And there's the scene when he saves Mary, like from the truck on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he didn't been introduced to her, I didn't even like register her name. Like it just, whatever it was. And when he saves her and then he calls her Mary, it was in that moment where I was like, all I want to see now is him giving her the power to become Mary Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
That was all, like, I was so focused on it from that point on.
Yeah.
And then end when I realized that the other brother was that person in the Shazam family, and that was like, oh, like I don't know. There was one other scene, maybe in the cave where surviving to get him to give I don't remember where it was, but it was something else where I was like, give Mary the power right now, and it didn't happen, and so I was like, oh man, don't tease me with this. And then it doesn't happen until the next movie. So I was so ecstatic when it went. Like I felt like it led into it for someone who'd read some comics. I knew what to expect, and it was great to see it like it paid off in that way. And then, I just loved how those grown-up versions, played the kid intellect. Like,
really well, really well.
Yeah.
Like the Asian kid, especially like the Asian kids. I forget his name, but his Shazam, Eugene, his Shazam equivalent. Even yelling Hadouken when he like fires the electricity, like it's Street
Doesn't
Fighter,
he yell fatality at some other point?
Yeah. So he brings to the video game stuff. Like that was really fun. I was surprised. I had not heard that ahead of time. I mean, maybe they spoiled it through.
No, I didn't hear that either.
I was not aware that was coming. So when he's like, grab the staff, I was kind of like, oh, and then when they all turned, not just one of them, but all of them, because they were kind of building it up towards his friend. What's the kid's friend's
Freddie?
Freddie. When they were building it up for Freddie, like, he's like, I would love to be this.
Exactly.
You got chosen. So I'm like, well, maybe at the very end, there's going to be, or maybe that'll be the end credit sequence will be him figuring out how to become, something too. So they were painting that pretty hard, but then the fact that it happened for all of them was just really fun to see.
Yeah, and see, I thought, and I had in my head like it's only going to happen for Mary, and then there's like at that final scene where they all get into the tent, and I'm like, oh, it was just such a great moment. Rarely do I mean, it's not like it was super hidden. I just I had suspended disbelief enough that in that moment it all came together for me of like, oh, we've seen the 6 thrones in the wizard cave, and there's 6 of them, and they're facing the 6 ends plus Savant, and it just like all of it came together, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
all of them have to transform, and it was such a good payoff for me. Anyway,
Other thing about this that I
really
really liked is that, and when you talked about the heart and just the scenes where the family was there, it felt like that was its own movie, and it just happened to involve, somebody with superpowers. That it was like the movie they were trying to make was this wonderful movie about this kid and him trying to find his place in the world and his mom, and oh yeah, it just so happens that he can do this too. But that complements the main story, which I think anymore going forward with all these movies, it kind of has to be that way. Like the main conceit has to be something very grounded and very real, and then you add this extra fantastical layer on top of it. Like that really works well for me. Iron Man the very first Iron Man movie in some ways is that it's this guy, who's got PTSD from this event, and he's trying to put his life back together, and he just happens to invent this suit that makes him this hero. But it's this could have been a movie about this guy regardless. It didn't have to be Iron Man.
And I think the very first X-Men had that.
Yeah, you're right. Totally.
That was what I felt. I think it's in that first X-Men where there are several interactions with the kids and their parents, and then maybe that's X2. But
that's X2.
But I really like that. And I totally agree with you. I mean, it's like nothing demonstrates how stupid it is that Batman and Superman snap out of their rage towards each other when they realize that their mother's names are the same. Like that was such a convenient moment in Batman. It's like, Martha, that was my mom's name too. Where, like, I mean, just you can contrast it with Shazam. That is the heart of the movie. Like that's what defines all of these characters. It gives them all their motivations, gives them all their personality. Like everything is in that family dynamic, and the parents are real 3-dimensional parents too. Like,
totally.
Yeah. Whereas in Bat Soup,
really
it's
well.
like, yeah. And in Bat Soup, it's just a convenience, like a literary trick of like, let's make both their names the same.
It's shoehorning in a grounded, what should be a grounded, intentional moment at a pure, you said it, at a pure convenience to then try to justify this insanity. It's just the whole, I just can't say enough how poorly, that's Man of Steel. I'll even start with Man of Steel, BVS, and Justice League. Crap the bed so much on so many things that should be otherwise so easy. Like at the baseline should have been DC just copy Marvel verbatim, which is what this is. So and they picked the right movie for that to work. I love Wonder Woman. That holds up incredibly well. I've had a lot of fun with Aquaman, for all its faults. Like it was just a lot of fun. But this movie, it was kind of like, okay, we're really going to go out there and really make it, really chase the Marvel formula. And because I think it was a lesser known character from the DC side of things, they had the ability, they weren't trapped by all this historical context, and they didn't have 3 Shazam movies by Christopher Nolan to have to contend with.
Right.
They could just do whatever they wanted, and it was really enjoyable. And they finally figured out their casting for these kinds of movies. Like Zachary Levi, this is the perfect use of his talents across the board.
Yeah.
Mark Strong you could tell he was a little bit just paint by numbers villain, which Savannah is, but he was having a lot of fun. That scene when they're sort of midair and he's doing his his villain speech, and Shazam's just like, what? I can't hear. Are you saying something? Are you doing a villain speech right now? And just like, you're a long ways away. And and Mark Strong just keeps talking. I'm like, that is why you cast Mark Strong for like scenes like that, where he tries to bring a little bit of gravitas, but he with a wink where he's like, he knows that it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Where it's the villain's not in on the joke.
Yeah. but the actor is, so you can kind of see, you just, the way Mark Strong does those kinds of scenes where he's just like, oh, this is just silly and fun. That was, the kids were perfectly cast. Everything was just really, really nice. I'll say a couple other things. Going back to the CGI, it was really refreshing to see most of, if not all of the locations as physical, real places. Like their house exists. The apartment where he goes to see his mom, that's a real place.
Oh,
it's a very, it had the aesthetic of a low, a lower class sort of, trying to make ends meet kind of apartment. And it was just like, wow, that's really cool. The use of Philadelphia.
It also wasn't a cartoon. Neither of those places were like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Whereas like you can, but there used to be these scenes in superhero. It's like, well, a villain lived in like the bad town. It just looked like a cartoon version of a bad part of town.
Yeah.
Whereas
like the Narrows and Batman Begins or something.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of that, or like, wasn't there something in Spider-Man that way? Like, but you really felt like Billy's mom, like, I don't know, that was a difficult scene, but that was such a real apartment of like just a lower income housing, and like, it's just, it's
that scene was crucial too, though.
Cartoonishly.
Well, that scene was crucial because they played this card of, well, he's not accepting his new family. He's just going to move along. So there needed to be a moment equal, like at the very end when he's the first to put his hand out at the dinner table. You need something to really make that matter. And they threaded that needle perfectly with him, finding his mom, seeing that like, oh, I don't have to keep searching for her anymore. Like this is my life now. And the fact that he grows up by becoming Shazam, by having his family help him, like that, all of that was earned. Everything was earned.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly. They couldn't have, you can see that like or we can imagine that in so many other superhero movies, they would have skipped that scene, but then still had him put his hand out at the end. And you're like, well, wait, just because his friends turned into superheroes too, that now it needed that real like grounding moment to, I don't know. It just explained everything to Billy and explained everything to us. I thought it was really great.
Yeah. Do you feel like this kind of movie can exist in a like the reason a movie like this can exist is because of Deadpool? And I say that because Deadpool the first one had a very small budget, comparatively speaking, and did a hell of a lot with it. Instead of giving us a helicarrier, they had like a junked up, a downed helicarrier in the junkyard, but we still got like, we had the production value of knowing, oh man, this could connect to the MCU if we really wanted it to. There's this helicarrier that kind of looks like it's from there. Or there are these scenes on the interstate in Vancouver where they're having these fight scenes, and it's a small cast and there's some very good practical effects mixed with the digital, but they did a lot and they let the script and the character interactions drive more of it. And I feel like Shazam, prior to that, I don't know if this Shazam movie would have turned out the same. I feel like that gave some of these studios the permission to go, oh, we can make a movie that feels bigger, but with a smaller budget, smaller cast, and just being really, really tight with the script.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I honestly, so as I felt like act one of this, and I love the reference to Deadpool because I think that's such a turning point in, one sort of aesthetic becomes dominant, and then you have to have something else really succeed with an like opposing aesthetic to kind of loosen up the market and like get everyone to go, oh yeah, we can do different stuff. And we were in such a danger of like Avengers becoming that everything imitated, because the X-Men movies were definitely going that way, and then Deadpool
all the movies were going that way. They're just getting bigger and more bloated and bigger, and like the CGI budgets were getting bigger and bigger. And Deadpool, by pure circumstance, could not do that. One of the reasons I didn't quite like the second one as much is because they got more money. We'll talk about that another time. But that first one was just very small, very. Think about how many scenes were just Ryan Reynolds with the grotesque face makeup trying to make his relationships work. Whether it be his girlfriend, his neighbor, his roommate, all of that was a lot of the movie. And so it's just kind of like to see Shazam. and maybe they didn't follow that at all, but just they were clearly influenced by that ability to just be more fun and not sweat the fact that they don't have $300 million to make this thing.
Yeah. And so as I was like, because Act One was sort of slowly developing the character of everything, and I felt like, wow, this is taking a long time to get to like the real, you know, the incident that starts moving the movie. As I was watching Shazam in those moments, I was thinking of telling you on a podcast. I was like, actually, be like such a case study and show, you know, and take several episodes to develop the Billy story and blah blah blah. But then once it got into it, like I would say, like once Act Two started, then I felt like, oh no, this is just the right way to do a movie, where it's like this is actually you know, it had to take that time so that it can start to like, you know, put something behind the characters. And I don't know, I thought it was really well done. And you were exactly right that I think something like Deadpool showed them this is possible, because you don't have to have just like spaceships and laser guns like at the beginning of the movie, you know.
Well, and Savannah didn't like summon some giant like world ending like you know, like hurricane or something that he, you know, there wasn't. It was very small and very localized. Like, you know, even when Savannah's engaging with Shazam, he's not, you know, destroying the whole city of Philadelphia to do it. It's just like he's going to their house. You know, he's like opening the door in their house. It's very intimate. You know, even at the carnival. I love that Santa gag, by the way. That payoff of that thing. I didn't know if it was going to work at first until he appeared at the end with the news anchor. I love that, and just like things like that. But the carnival scene was even very intimate. You know, he wasn't capturing a bunch of random bystanders. It was him and the Sins going after the kids, and that was basically it. Yeah. It was so nice.
If there'd been a bunch of collateral damage in that carnival, it would have ruined the tone of the movie. Like if those, you know, if just like if you had that like Man of Steel moment or that Avengers 1 moment where a building falls over and you're like, well, that's, you know, 2,000 people dead. Like that would have just ruined it so much. You know, like so yeah, it was so good that they didn't do that.
The scene where he causes the bus to crash, but then he saves the bus. You know, that was the way to show his power, you know, him developing his power and accepting, but it also just kind of, it made the stakes feel bigger, because here's this bus full of 5 or 6 people that might die. Wow. That's important. That's meaningful. You know, they're not just, the bus doesn't just get chucked away into the distance by Savannah through some kind of, you know, hand wave, or it's, he's got to save these people.
And it just
reminded me, it felt like he was your friendly neighborhood Shazam. It was that sort of thing.
I was going to say, it's like, it was so serious, and you definitely felt like, oh, this is serious. But then when he goes and gets like the old dirty mattress and puts it into the bus, it was like, okay, that's funny. You know, and just seeing like the face of the person like squished up against the window, like, no.
Yeah. Not
like it was, I mean, it was the proper amount of levity, I thought, for a comic book movie, you know?
Yeah.
I do think there's one like sort of history note that I think is a good thing to wrap up on, if in fact we are close to wrapping up, which is what I noted as the quotation marks Captain Marvel problem.
Okay.
So I did a lot of research on this, which is to say I mostly read over one article to refresh my memory on the whole legal problem with Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. So Shazam was called Captain Marvel when he was owned by a not DC nor Marvel, by a different comic book group. DC bought the rights to that character and was then, and I think, or they bought the comic book company, I believe, but was then in a legal dispute with the original creators over what they could call that character. And at the time, Marvel had just changed their name to Marvel. Mm-hmm. So worried that their main competition would suddenly own the name to a hero called Captain Marvel, and that would weaken their brand, they quickly made a character named Captain Marvel.
Oh, got it.
So the Marvel Captain Marvel was like literally a device to save their brand name from DC. But what I think is so interesting is watching this play out, where Marvel's Captain Marvel and DC's Shazam come out 2 weeks apart, and they don't call Shazam Shazam, nor do they call him any Captain Marvel. And I know I've seen the Shazam family referred to, but
Mhm.
I still I think those characters are still called Mary Marvel, Uncle Marvel,
Yep.
whatever Marvel,
They
like
are,
whatever
as
Freddy's character is.
at least in Grant Morrison's Multiversity, there's a whole chapter / issue dealing with that side of the universe. And
Yeah.
yeah, they are still, even then, that was, a couple years ago, they're still referred to as that. So,
And I kind of wonder if DC has a real problem here, because it was a funny joke that, Captain Lightning Fingers or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
those were, or Thundercrack. It sounds like a butt thing. Those were all like, that was all funny, but I guess it was when it finally got to the end of the movie, and he's has them all, put their hands on the staff, and he goes, "Say my name," and they all go, "Billy,"
Yeah.
which was funny anyway. But then when he said, no, say the other name that I say to turn this person, I was fully aware in that moment of like, oh, he can't even say his own superhero name
No, he
to
can't, because he would.
introduce himself.
Well, no, but he
Right.
would turn back into Billy at that moment.
Right. But I mean, imagine Shazam the superhero introducing himself to Superman or something. He's like, let me write this down for you.
Oh, that's
You
right.
know?
Yeah,
Like-
that is an interesting problem.
And that is sort of like, I mean, it's not like a serious discrepancy or something. It's just like a stupid problem to have, where what do you call these people? And your movie just happened to come out in the same season as Marvel's Captain Marvel. And so also, was this not supposed to be a Christmas movie? There was so much Christmas stuff happening in this.
Yeah, but at the same time, Iron Man 3 was a Christmas movie, and it came out May 5th, 2013. So I'm one of those people who, if you're going to put Christmas stuff in your movie, I prefer it come out at Christmas just for that purpose. And it's such a family-friendly movie.
Yeah.
Why the hell not?
Well, did it
but
get
it's
delayed? I guess that was really my question. Did they delay it till after Captain Marvel?
I don't know.
For some reason like that. I don't know. It just, all these questions occurred to me. Like why, the proximity to Captain Marvel, and then this long running joke of like, I'm sure non-readers come out of this calling him Shazam, but who are the others? What do you call it? Like, who are the other junior Shazams? What? Yeah.
I've heard them referred to as the Shazam kids a few times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So is there a cartoon or a comic book or something where all of them are Marvel family members?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure in one of those DC animated shows or something they've done that. They seem to be pretty loyal to the comics throughout this thing. So the fact that the comics accurate costume with no changes. I mean, it's not like they made it like more, darker red so that it it was as exact. I mean, the cape and everything was there, the hood, the whole 9 yards. And I'm just like, the fact that they did that just really makes me, it's there must have been an edict that's like, look, we're not going to be ashamed of absolutely anything. If there's anybody at Warner Brothers who's doing a bunch of cocaine and wants to say otherwise, they're not allowed on set. We're going to do this. No one's going to mess with us. Or DC was like, whatever. This is all falling apart, so just do whatever you want. And then it,
That's such a great idea.
They're just like, they're looking at the receipts. This was being made during Justice League. They're looking at the receipts for Justice League, like, oh crap, it's all gone wrong. You know what?
Yeah, what if we got more comic book loyal movies because the studio just gave up rather than them trying to like micromanage everything into perfect, continuity?
They stopped trying to think about it. Oh, that'd be great. I mean, that explains Aquaman to some degree. They're just like, do everything, every single moment. It's like, it's in one movie.
Yeah.
So we got, to wrap up, we have now, in my opinion, we've had 3 movies from the DCCU that are very much a course correction, starting with Wonder Woman. Say what you will about Aquaman, but compared to the other things that preceded Wonder Woman, it's by far better.
It is the aesthetic mess of like Justice League, Batsuit, Man of Steel with a more like fun comic book story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like not trying to make it into a sci-fi apocalypse.
Yes. Boom. So that worked. And now we have like the really small, intimate, fun version of this.
Yeah.
I mean, do you see DC threading, the strings for another Justice League sans Batman and Superman? Or do you do you see this being just standalone movies for, the long haul? Is that what you prefer?
I don't know. Cause there aren't too many DC heroes. Like there's only DC heroes that I think they'll get wrong.
Yeah.
I don't have any that I'm like, we have yet to see a good Green Lantern. I'm like, oh man, don't screw up Catwoman.
Yeah.
That's sort of how I go into it. But I think you and I have hypothesized about this before. Like just do some team ups, do like a Batgirl movie that like a Robin appears in or something. Like it doesn't necessarily need to try to be the Avengers. Like tell more interesting, like tell a greater number of interesting stories rather than a fewer number of like epic stories.
I really want to see, as we were walking out, I told my wife, I really want to see a scenario where Zachary Levi as Shazam has to interact with Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, because you've got this teenage boy who's now, around this beautiful, like strong, just completely kick-ass woman. Like, what is that going to do to him? And especially my favorite line in the entire movie of Shazam was when he and Freddy are walking out and he's like, and I forget some woman passes him, and it maybe outside the convenience store or maybe downtown, but he's like, hey, you and I are the same age now. Like he points to this woman, like, and he says like, you and I you're the same age as me now. Like as almost like a pickup line. Yeah. And it was just, I'm like, I want that with Wonder Woman just to see, they could have a lot lot of fun
or him referring to Wonder Woman as an old lady, like he did when he rescued that woman. Yeah. Oh man, I had two things went through my head and they got confused. I know one of them was, I believe I sent you a text about this. There's this great Jeff Smith miniseries called Shazam and the Monster Society of Evil, which is just like it's like fun for people of our generation who are just sort of like it's an easy way to dip your toe into comics and go, yeah, that's just it's aesthetically pleasing, the writing is sharp, it's just fun, but it's also good for kids because it's so it plays so much on that like Billy to Shazam conversion. And in fact, when like Mary Marvel gets powers in Monster Society of Evil, she does not age. So it's like a little Mary Marvel, like a kid that has those superpowers. And there's just a bunch of fun stuff like that. And Mr. Mind's in it, and Savannah and whatever. I just remembered what I was going to say about Savannah. But anyway, Monster Society of Evil, beautiful in print. And it is on Comixology Unlimited right now. So like if you just want to check it out, do that. And you're an Unlimited member, it's free. So I love that book. What I was going to say about Savannah, related to what you're saying about Wonder Woman, was what Shazam did so well was, and this, I don't, correct me like on what any other movie that has done this superhero movie, they started with the villain's origin story.
Yeah.
And that humanized to an extent Savannah
completely.
And it was like, when you think about everything that was wrong with Justice League, there's these superheroes fighting this like amorphous, like undescribable godlike power. Steppenwolf, like nobody cares about Steppenwolf. There's no connection to this person. It's just like a power. Yeah. And that made
the mother fetish.
Yeah. And that made Shazam so much better.
Oh yeah. I did, especially because you knew he was going to grow up to be Mark Strong as this character. It was really nice to see, hey, he was offered this at one point too, and he was told no. And then his whole life is predicated on like, why was I told no? How do I get back there? Everything, every moment. Were you surprised to see his father still alive in that boardroom when he walked in? Both because he survived the wreck, but also I'm like, isn't he too old to be alive? Like what is going on? And then I thought, no,
too old to be alive.
No, but like, you see him
he definitely did not look as old as he should have looked.
Yeah. But but in the car, you're like, well, that guy's like 48, 50 years old. So, fast forward 30 years. But then I thought, oh no.
No, but it's fast forward 45 years because that opening scene said 1974.
Oh, wow. Well, okay. But then, I thought, Ted Turner, he's, still running a company. Lucian, who's the guy that ran CBS, or the old
Les Moonves.
No, the old guy, even older than him. But no, even more so, what's the oh God, who runs Fox? Jesus Christ.
Rupert Murdoch.
Rupert Murdoch. Like, so that I'm almost imagining the dad as a Rupert Murdoch kind of character. Obviously he had his legs,
Yeah. I guess if they had aged him
armed.
too much, like prosthetics, then we wouldn't have recognized him. But I did love, sorry, we got to cut this off because we're going to ramble too long. I did love the moment where the brother turns around and you realize that's the brother sitting in the conference room.
Yeah.
Was such a Biff Tanner moment. Do I have that last name correct? Like when you see Biff as an old man in Back to the Future and you're like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Same actor, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And like just how he's just gotten like thicker,
thicker and less hair. Yeah. That was good. Well, the movie's got a 91% fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes, so a lot of people are liking it. Again, it's a little derivative if you've been watching these movies for this whole time, but honestly, I think this is meant for a whole new generation of moviegoers who this is their first one. This is to a lot of kids what Iron Man was 10 years ago to a lot of kids now who are in their early 20s. They grew up with those Marvel movies. This is the start of a new cycle for for a younger generation.
I might even go a step farther than that and say that this could be like the start of like a Harry Potter-esque like version of superheroes, because I think it gets into a younger demographic and a more pleasing aesthetic for younger, like Iron Man, appealed to me, and I know it appealed to young kids too, but like this really felt like that magic of like a Harry Potter kind of thing. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, but I can see it like you aging with Billy Batson,
Yeah. Oh man, I never even thought of that. So
I just this second thought of that.
so it could stand to reason that as these go on, they may get a little darker, as the Harry Potter movies did. Yeah, that's man. Now I'm excited to see where this goes, because you're right. That very first Harry Potter movie was very much like bright and colorful and innocent and magical and very much like this tonally. And oof. All right. Well, that said, Todd, where can folks find us if they want to listen to more episodes or learn more about what we're doing?
Well, the best place to do that is just go to panelism.inc in a web browser, and that will show you where to find us on iTunes and Google Podcasts and Stitcher and what am I leaving out?
Google Play, Pocket Casts, Apple, all the
Player FM. What was the one we were going to mention because we found all these people listening to it?
I don't remember.
We just discovered some new podcast app because it was in our analytics. But also you can follow us on Instagram, which is our preferred and pretty only social media. We are panelism.inc there as well, and we share a lot of cool comic book art and memories and stuff, and have some good stories. In fact, I think we just had a great comment exchange with someone, and I think we're gonna talk about that in our next episode.
That's right.
So yes, until next episode, and we don't know exactly when this is. I know exactly when this one is coming out, but I can't preview the next one because we don't know when that one will come out. We're Panelism. I'm Todd. You're Taylor. We still lack a good outro.
Here's all the outros. This is the Aquaman of outros. Everything. We'll give you everything.
Oh my God. Yeah. Until next time.